one of the most important musical events of the 20th century took place on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. There were just two performers, a singer and a pianist. NPR special correspondent Susan Stamberg says on April 9th, 1939, they made musical and social history.
The singer was 42 years old, respected in Europe and the U.S., but had never faced such an enormous audience, 75,000 people. She was terrified. Later she wrote, "I could not run away from this situation. If I had anything to offer, I would have to do so now." So, at 5 p.m. in the April dusk, Marian Anderson stepped onto a stage built over the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and began to sing. The NBC Blue Network announcer explained the unusual venue this way.
Marian Anderson is singing this public concert at the Lincoln Memorial because she was unable to get an auditorium to accommodate the tremendous audience that wished to hear her.
Not exactly. In fact, they had tried to book Constitution Hall for the concert.
But they could not book Constitution Hall because the group that owned this building was known as the Daughters of the American Revolution, and they denied Miss Anderson to sing in this stage because she was black. Here's a picture with Miss Anderson and the First Lady at the time, Mrs. Eleanor Roosevelt. Her husband was the president. Mrs. Roosevelt was a member of the Daughters of the American Revolution, and she wrote the president of this group a letter in which she said the following in the second paragraph. "However, I am in complete disagreement with the attitude taken in refusing Constitution Hall to a great artist. You have set an example which seems to me unfortunate, and I feel obliged to send you my resignation. You had an opportunity to lead in an enlightened way, and it seems to me that your organization has failed. I realize many people will not agree with me, but feeling as I do, this seems to me the only proper procedure to follow." So, with Mrs. Roosevelt's influence and many others in Washington, with their disdain at the actions of the Daughters of the American Revolution, they set out to arrange to have Miss Anderson hold a concert at the Lincoln Memorial. And here is an old footage of this event.
The nation's most impressive Easter demonstration. 75,000 massed before Lincoln Memorial to hear Marian Anderson, colored contralto, make her capital debut at the great Emancipator Shrine. Refusal of the DAR to let her use their hall fanned a countrywide controversy, with this great gathering as the climax. The singer was invited by Secretary of the Interior, Ickes, who attends with Secretary of the Treasury, Morgenthau. Spectators include Supreme Court Justice Black, New York Senator Robert Wagner, and a host of notables. Here to listen to the voice acclaimed by many as the finest in a century.
A quiet, humble person, Marian Anderson often used we when speaking about herself. Years after the concert, she explained why.
We cannot live alone. And the thing that made this moment possible for you and for me has been brought about by many people whom we will never know.
But her change of lyric, from I to we, can be heard as an embrace, implying community and group responsibility. Never a civil rights activist, Anderson believed prejudice would disappear if she simply performed and behaved with dignity. But dignity came at a price throughout her 25-minute Lincoln Memorial concert. Biographer Kyler says she appeared frightened before every song, yet the perfect notes kept coming.
I think it's because she was able to close her eyes and shut out what she saw in front of her, and simply the music took over.
She could shut out the crowd, shut out the 3 months of brouhaha and controversy that led up to this day, during which the concert and contention were all over the newspapers. Eyes closed, enveloped in song, she soared above it all to erase discord with her art. On that stage, before a bank of microphones, the Lincoln statue looming behind her, iconic photographs reveal Anderson as a regal figure that cloudy, blustery day. Although the sun did break out as she began to sing, she wrapped her fur coat around her against the April wind.
Years later, the Daughters of the American Revolution rescinded their segregationist policy about colored artists performing on the stage at Constitution Hall, and they did ask Miss Anderson to come back. And through the years, Miss Anderson was a performer for several presidents in their inaugurations. Here we see President Eisenhower. She also performed at President Kennedy's inauguration, and she was a guest for many other presidents, like we see here with President Johnson, President Carter, as well as President Bush. Mrs. Anderson passed away in the early 1990s. She was about 93 or 96 when she passed away. The following video clip is from a famous actor by the name of Ozzie Davis, and this is some of his memories that he remembered from being there on that Easter day back in 1929 at the Lincoln Memorial.
Leave Howard University on April 16th to come to New York, like I told you. But it so happened that that was the day Marian Anderson was going to sing the Lincoln Memorial. And we decided to stay an additional week at Howard so we could be in that crowd of 75,000 people standing at the Lincoln Memorial, chilly day, and listening to her sing. She had been booked to sing for the students of Howard University 3 or 4 weeks before the church burned down that she was going to sing in. So the thought was, Marian Anderson, why not Constitution Hall? You know, big place for her. Try Constitution Hall. Constitution Hall said, well, she's colored, and we really can't open our doors to colored people. Told that on Roosevelt, who resigned from the Daughters of the American Revolution and got Harold Lincoln's Secretary of Interior to open up the Lincoln Memorial. And Marian Anderson, therefore, was going to sing at the Lincoln Memorial. So I was one of the student body surrounded by the rest of the 75,000 people standing out there that cloudy day listening to Marian Anderson sing. And there was about her and her voice something that could reach inside a man and pull him up off his knees and make him stand tall and strong and self-sufficient. Her music could translate the negative aspects of being a black boy from the South. And in spite of my father and in spite of all my training, I didn't escape being a nigger. You know, that was in me too. But Marian Anderson was the first one who made me realize that through art and music, she could reach inside me and just lift me from all that negativity and make me something else. So when I did go to New York, the voice of Marian Anderson was still ringing in my ears, and I always wanted to do with art what she did with song.
Okay, so as I was putting some of this together and looking at it, about 40 years later, there was another famous event there at the Lincoln Memorial at the same, almost the exact same spot. You might already know this. This was when Martin Luther King gave his famous I Have a Dream speech. Well, guess who was also there singing? Yes, Mrs. Anderson. And I started wondering, I wonder if there's any pictures of Martin Luther King and Miss Anderson. Mrs. Anderson. I couldn't find any. However, as I was looking around, I noticed several things that were inconsistencies, and it was a good lesson for us to see that we should always be careful what we read when we're on the internet. So let's take a look at this about Martin Luther King and Miss Anderson. Okay, so this first website I noticed from Vice.com, it was called The Groundbreaking Black Singer Whose Voice Inspired Martin Luther King Jr. Okay, so here it states, amid the audience was a 10-year-old boy who 24 years later would stand in Anderson's spot and preach, I Have a Dream. In a speaking contest 5 years later, young Martin Luther King Jr. recalled Anderson's performance. She sang as never before, with tears in her eyes, when the words of America and nobody knows the trouble I seen rang over the great gathering. There was a hush of a sea of uplifted faces, black and white, a new baptism of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Here's another article from the University of Pennsylvania called Legacy Keepers. And it says, if you look up here at the top, it says a young Reverend Martin Luther King was among the 75,000 in the audience. Okay, here's a third website I discovered from theworld.org about the singer Marian Anderson's Lincoln Memorial legacy. It also states, as we take a look here, that Martin Luther King was in the audience. It says right there at the very top. So finally, I looked up another article from PBS.org. It's like the historic Marian Anderson's performance. And in this article, it does not have a young Martin Luther King Jr. there in Washington, D.C. He was like many others across the nation at home listening to it on the radio. Okay, so here we have a great example of sometimes when we're looking up stuff, we might come across things that are somewhat in conflict. I realize this is very minor, but 3 websites talk about a young Martin Luther King as a 10-year-old being there and listening to Marian Anderson there at the Lincoln Memorial. And it sounds great. However, it just didn't sound right to me. And it is true that the young Martin Luther King, when he was in high school, did write an essay, and he did quote the influence of Marian Anderson about this particular event, but he was not there. He listened to it on the radio at home. Now, if I'm wrong, I'd be more than willing to listen to others if there's some evidence to prove that he was there in Washington, D.C. I just couldn't find it. And I might be totally wrong. And then PBS is wrong also, because they said in their article that he was not there, but he was listening to it on the radio. Okay, well, today that was our Musical Monday event. Marian Anderson singing at the Lincoln Memorial. Have a great day. Bye-bye.